Welcome to the Screen MDM Talks podcast hosted by me, Manju Daswani. This week our sponsor is MD Media Biz.
Welcome to another episode of Screen MDM Talks, our Gen A to Z strand focused on development in the kids and YA content sectors. Our guest today has a deep well of knowledge about the sector, having spent years at Disney and Moonbug Entertainment. At Lightboat Media, he's advising IP owners on these shifting tides of this new media economy that we all have to understand. He's also working in AI and global distribution and everything that I think we all need to know about. He's also a DEI champion. Welcome, David Levine. It's so good to see you again.
Good to see you. Thanks so much for having me.
It's an absolute delight. Now, David, I remember reading on LinkedIn a little while ago that you'd gone to the 1 Billion Followers Summit, and I've been slightly obsessed with this event. I only really heard about it towards the end of last year, and I was like, what is this? And I saw that a ton of people were going, and I was like, I need to keep an eye on this. So I'm just curious, why was it important for you to be there? I know you made a last-minute decision to go. And I guess, what are some of the important takeaways you got from that event about these intersections between social video and this traditional ecosystem that you and I have been part of for a long time?
So thanks. It's a great question. I did make a kind of last minute decision to go. I also had heard about it sort of late in the year. And what really interested me was that there was such a wide range of attendees, and particularly on this side of the world. So it was in Dubai. It attracted a lot of attendees, obviously from the Middle East, but also from Europe, Eastern Europe, some from Asia as well. And it was a bit of a different kind of a scene than, let's say, a VidCon. And what was interesting to me was, particularly around the kids in animation space, was that they were not there, which was interesting. I think that in the year ahead, that the opportunity is going to be for the animators of YouTube to catch up to where a lot of the other areas of YouTube are, and that's something that I'm interested in exploring. So I think that it was a really good event. They sat in some great panels. You saw creators of different sizes from around the world, and really interesting, great connections, really great spirit of making connections with people. It was a terrific event.
Now, I'm vaguely obsessed with career pivots, having gone through one. You know, you've got to shift a lot of things, from your own personal budgets to your time management to everything. And you've had a couple. You spent almost 2 decades at Disney, and then you moved to this digital first Moonbug model, which is fascinating. And then you set up your own shop. I'm just curious about the mental shifts that you had to make in each of those key transitions as you figured out the next step in your career.
Sure. So I left Disney in 2020, right in the middle of COVID, which was daunting to say the least. I wound up with an opportunity to go to Moonbug, and what was interesting for me at that point in time, I wanted to make a shift into a digital first or digital oriented landscape. I'd grown up scheduling linear channels essentially at Disney, and producing, co-producing, greenlighting traditional long form content, and Moonbug was everything that was not. Short form, weekly uploads. And I had to do a bit of a mental shift in terms of quality expectations, budget expectations, speed expectations. A reality check is, you're not going to get the same kind of quality that you get in a 2.5-minute nursery rhyme music video as you will a 22-minute episode of content that you've spent 18 months on. Yeah. So that shift was an important one. And I have to say, I was surprised at myself that I was actually able to make it pretty quickly. Renee Reckman was a great leader and really helped allow me to make that shift. And when I wound up leaving Moonbug, I started my own company. And that was a much bigger change because I did not have all the support system. Everything was down to myself. And that is incredibly liberating, but it is also challenging because you have to figure out how you manage your day, and you've got to do all the sorts of things that you frankly didn't really have to do for all these years when you had a whole support team. And so there was a bit of a learning curve in the beginning, and certainly the first couple of months were definitely challenging. I started my company in June. it wasn't until I got to MIPCOM in October when I was
Mm,
able to re-engage with the community in a significant way. And I was wearing my new clothes, so to speak. And I got all the feedback and all of the positive reinforcement of my being in this new role
mm,
that I just needed.
yeah,
And that really just set me going. Also, I was
yeah,
able to close a really good deal at that MIPCOM. So it's the first couple of months definitely rocky, but you get there. I got there. So
yeah.
I think anyone can do it.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping I will get there. I'm in month 3. No, I want to talk about Lightboat. Tell me about the work that you're doing there to help IP owners who maybe don't fully understand the complexities of the landscape, figure out the complexities of the landscape.
What I've been doing over the past couple of years is really building on my experience from Disney and Moonbug together in terms of building billion-dollar franchises in the traditional ecosystem. All the lessons that I learned in Moonbug about digital first content production, YouTube strategy, and bringing those together to be able to come to content owners to say, I can help turn your content into businesses. And it's been really interesting. I've had all sorts of clients. I've had a football club, a mobile gaming company, Nine Story, working with them on relaunching their Barney channels and helping them get
Yeah.
into digital first content production. I
Uh,
worked with Electrify Video Partners, which was an investment company in content creators of all kinds. Currently, I'm working with Invisible Narratives, which is the
mm,
company that owns the Skibbity Toilet franchise.
yeah,
So, working with all these different companies and figuring out how do you take your content, your fandom, and get you into the next place.
yeah,
And also, how do you put together the processes, the systems, the apparatus to make your business bigger than what it currently is and make it
sure.
bigger and into the next thing?
Yeah.
So that's on the consulting side.
Mm,
And then on the creative side, I have a couple of different projects that are more passion projects.
mm,
And the consulting pays the bills, and then there's the passion projects that make my soul good, feel good. So I've had a couple of different projects in the LGBTQ space, produced a video for a global health organization,
mm,
produced some videos for a UK charity. I'm working with the oldest preschool channel in the world to figure out how to bring their content to a global basis. That's the Help channel here in Israel.
of course.
So those are projects that are near and dear to my heart, and I'm really excited about the next show that Hop has coming out. It's if you mash up the family heart of Bluey
Mm,
and the uh the TED IP of the talking bear, it's in live action, it's got that vibe. And I don't use a Bluey reference lightly. I
yeah.
was part of the team that spotted Bluey at Disney. I know that property very well. I don't use that lightly. So I'm super excited about this next project.
Being part of the team that spotted Bluey, obviously that brand is, I mean, what BBC Studios 2 has done with scaling that digital presence has been absolutely remarkable. But what is it that you look for? I know that it's a balance of managing the data and gut instinct and all of that. But what are some of the things that you look for that you think, yeah, I think this is going to resonate in multiple markets and be able to extend across multiple platforms?
So I'm going to give you probably a sort of hackneyed answer, which is that there needs to be a unique take on a genre or a unique take on something. And if it's going to be kids or preschool, it needs to hit the heartstrings of the family and the
Yeah.
parents. Miss Rachel, her format isn't particularly new. An educator talking directly to camera. She really figured out how to not only, well, first off, she also figured out how to talk to parents on TikTok, but she also figured out that it was the real slow approach and the verbal learning and the approach for the littlest kids that was meaningful and stood out from everything else. So why Teletubbies worked 25 years ago. It was the first show
Yeah.
that addressed that 0 to 2 year old, and it did it in its particular way, and it was unique at the time. And she
Mm,
found a unique way in. And Bluey also a unique combination of family and kid appeal. It's difficult, but with learning how to drive your property over a period of time to
yeah.
be able to reach an audience between a unique point of view and that ability to reach the audience, you can break through. And we've seen it.
Yeah. No. I went to Evan Shapiro's presentation at NAPI, and he was talking that what's going to define the era today is just fragmentation. Obviously, if you're an IP owner, you have to sometimes prioritize, because being always on and everywhere can be an expensive and labor-intensive effort. So as you're talking to IP owners, what do you tell them about the things that they might need to prioritize as they figure out how to allocate what remains limited budgets for getting these properties off the ground?
Figuring out which if figuring out where the key audience is and cultivating that first. You just had a movie released by a YouTuber that he self-financed. That was a result of building an audience year after year after year and having his audience support the creation of the film, support the release of the film in theaters, and it blew all the numbers away. That's going to be a study of how do you build a brand in this fragmented marketplace. You look at an IP like Five Nights at Freddy. It started off as particular application and then grew from there. So I do think it's possible to be able to grow IP from nothing, so to speak. But you've got to be smart about choosing your initial investments, and you almost can't be everywhere. However, AI is your friend in this. There are good AI tools that allow you to repurpose some of your content onto other platforms so that you can get, particularly when it comes to creating vertical videos, there's a bunch of AI tools that allow you to do that. So you can have a presence on TikTok or Instagram with vertical video if you are YouTube native. Those types of opportunities exist. Additionally, there's also looking at the opportunities in the Patreons or the other ways to directly communicate with your audience and be able to provide them with something special in exchange for cash. I think you're going to see more of that. I think you're going to see more of people who are producing content figuring out, okay, how do I do just this extra bit to my content to turn it into a digital piece of content that I can sell? Do I turn this into a course? Do I turn this into an ebook? Those types of activities, and there's a bit of saturation there, but I think that's something that the kids animation space has really not gotten into, and I think there's a lot of opportunity.
As vertical content continues to just prove it to be incredibly sticky, how are you looking at that space going forward for your own creative endeavors and on behalf of your clients as well?
I think the microdrama and vertical content space is very, very exciting. Microdramas potentially are the cat videos of vertical format. And by that, I mean, if you look back on the history of YouTube, what was the beginning? It was cat videos, right? I think microdramas now and the structure of the pay per video, I think that is probably a phase of some sorts, maybe. I think there are going to be more higher quality dramas and that are in the vertical space that aren't necessarily micro dramas where you have the My Secret Agent Billionaire Husband's Lover series, that sort of thing. As entertaining as those are, and there's definitely a place for them, and there's an audience that adores it, which is terrific. I think that's the beginning of a trend. When it comes to kids and younger kids in particular, I think the next year is going to be very interesting. You see a lot of restrictions coming out around the world around social platforms about restricting shorts for kids. I think that the necessity to be able to support kids' development and to avoid the dopamine stimulus of shorts is important, and I think it's responsible, and that's an area when it comes to vertical microdrama type content for kids and shorts for kids. I go very slowly to that. I don't think it's the best thing in the world, to be honest, and I don't generally advocate for my clients to invest too heavily in shorts. I know there's a lot of back and forth about the value of shorts to YouTube channels. I'm not the biggest fan of it for kids. And for preschoolers and little kids in particular, definitely not. I see it in my own life, and it's not great.
We've seen gains in DEI. We've seen some missteps in champion team. It's been a strange couple of years for DEI, I think. How are you pushing for more inclusive content still, even though it felt like there was a time where the market really wanted it and then it felt like the market didn't care at all? I don't know.
Moderating a panel at Kidscreen called the DEI Reckoning, And we have a speaker from Luminate, which is an incredible data service, and they are going to be bringing really sobering statistics around how much of a decrease there has been from the height of 23 to last year of diversity-led stories.
Yeah.
It's kind of depressing, not gonna lie. I don't want to spoil it, but basically every category, every kind of representation is down. The ray of light, which I don't want to also spoil too much, is that at least in many of the biggest shows that have become popular, there are significant storylines that tip into diversity and representation. I use Stranger Things as the example. Stranger Things season 5 had a very engaging and meaningful storyline around LGBTQ issues. So in big pieces of content, thankfully there's still areas of representation, but in terms of the number of specific commissions that are around and focused on representation and diversity related series, frankly it's totally diminished. Going back to the creator conversation though, to me, I think that's a huge opportunity, right? Because it's all about niche and it's all about segmentation. If you can lean into the right segmentation in an authentic way from where you're coming from on these platforms, you're likely able to build your proposition, your media proposition with that group if you are focusing on a particular demographic. And then ideally being able to leverage that over time into something that is broader. And so, and there's all sorts of ways, and that's something that I can happily advise on is what are the elements that you put into your content from the beginning so that you're not having problems a year, 2 years down the road if you want to expand out into something else.
I know it's difficult to have visibility in a landscape that is this fast moving and complex. But what are some of the big trends that you're keeping an eye on that you think will, significantly reshape the kids family YA sector in the year to come? I know planning for a year seems impossible these days, but what are you looking out for in 2026?
I think there's going to be a great migration of talent from the traditional ecosphere into the digital landscape and creator economy. I mean, you're already starting to see it in the other genres. You're starting to see it a bit where you've got animators and creators that have been working for years in the traditional landscape are launching their own content on YouTube. I think you're going to be seeing a bit more of the big guys really focusing on franchises and continuing to be conservative about their investments. And as a result, people are going to have to basically, as my friend Jeff says all the time, you got to greenlight yourself. And and also look to existing areas of the creator economy to be able to leverage your skills. And they're out there. I mean, it's a different landscape. It's a different pay scale in many cases. However, it's a way into what is next. There's going to be a big migration. I think you're going to see in the next year, I think there's going to be more and more animators and creators building themselves on these platforms. The AI tools and the tools in general are going to facilitate better content, even from those animators to be able to use those tools to support their storytelling. And you're already starting to see, creators really ascending into the ecosphere.
Right. Right. And how are you looking at Roblox? I'm not a gamer. I don't have kids, so it's not an ecosystem I understand at all. But I do know that kids are spending an awful lot of time there. So how are you looking at it from the perspective of both as a place to develop new IP or build interest in new IP?
I personally was a lot more bullish on it at the beginning of last year. One of my predictions last year was that a Roblox IP was going to make the leap into being greenlit for a feature film or a television series. And that has in fact happened. But I think that the platform has issues. And, when the Disneys of the world are not jumping in like many other platforms where they are jumping in, you kind of have to ask yourself why. There's a lot of chatter around what's working, what's not in that platform, how safe it is, and that doesn't really seem to be going away. That said, it's a great platform for new IP. It's a very inexpensive way to be able to launch a property and to at least get it out there into the world to get some feedback. Also, if you are an IP, they've created all sorts of programs to be able to leverage your IP so you can license others to make games using your IP, which is a great tool. And it's a great way to get your brand extended if you've got something that people are have an interest in. So there's a lot of things going for it. There's definitely some questions about it. I think that this is going to be a really pivotal year for them. I'm a fan. I mean, I think it's incredible that any kind of platform that gives kids the tools to express themselves, to interact in a positive way, all terrific. I think that they've got the issues that they got to work out to really get to be a real safe place where kids and parents feel good about it.
David, I've been asking all of my kids guests about, after what has been a really rocky couple of years for a lot of people in this sector, what most excites you about what's still ahead for this business, and why stay in it, right? You you have all kinds of other options of other genres you could have gone to. Why was it important for you to stick with this one amid what has been it's been a rough couple of years for a lot of people?
There's nothing like being able to create content that resonates with someone as a kid and how it is still so meaningful to them. This year, High School Musical hit its 20th anniversary. And I can tell you, my own memories of being involved in High School Musical. I was very involved in having the content distributed to all of our Disney channels and all sorts of stuff. I didn't had none of the creativity though. I can't take any credit for that. I had so many family members that loved High School Musical. I mean, we did the sing-alongs and we did the dance-alongs and we did all those things. And as the 20th anniversary came out, to be able to relive all of that with my nieces and my nephews, and then have their kids get involved in it and their kids fall in love with it is so meaningful, right? And so that's something that is just magical. And that is what keeps me involved in this space, in that you're creating something that really changes kids and helps them evolve into the adults they become, and creates foundational core memories that are meaningful for decades.
Yeah. No, your passion for the business is infectious. I really appreciate it. David, was there anything else you wanted to tell me about what's going on at Lightboat, your passion projects, what you're working on now that we haven't had a chance to cover yet?
I'm super excited about the show that Hop is premiering here in Israel. I'm excited to continue to explore in the creator economy and making the connections between companies and animators to be able to help them navigate. I navigated from the most traditional kind of company you could imagine, the Walt Disney Company, into showing up in Dubai on 3 weeks' notice and meeting with people from around the world and all different kinds of creators. So if I can do it, you can do it.
David, thank you so much. It was really lovely catching up with you again. It's been too long.
It has. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully see you somewhere in person soon.
Hopefully you will. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Screen MDM Talks podcast, hosted by me, Mantra Daswani. Kate Roach is our VP of Global Ad Sales and Business Development. Production was done by Anand Patel. Musical score performed and composed by Jahan Raymond.